In Osaka, there is a woman who eats rice every day, noodles twice a week. She has never counted a calorie. She does not own a food scale. She has no app on her phone tracking her macros. She could not tell you the protein content of her lunch if her life depended on it. She is 59. Her weight has not changed in 20 years. Right now, somewhere in the Western world, someone is on their fourth diet since January. They are tracking every gram, avoiding entire food groups, eating foods they do not enjoy because a program told them to, and wondering why the weight they lost last month is already finding its way back. They are working harder at this than the woman in Osaka has ever worked at anything food-related in her life, and they are getting a worse result. The difference is not willpower. It is not genetics. It is not that Japanese food is lighter or that Japanese portions are smaller by some cultural accident. It is 8 habits so deeply embedded in Japanese daily life that the people who practice them have never once thought of them as weight management, because to them, they are not. They are simply how eating works. Number 3 on this list has nothing to do with food directly. Number 7 happens in the hour after eating and is the complete opposite of what most Westerners do without thinking. There is a physiological reason the Japanese approach works that most diet culture has never addressed. The body's satiety signal, the message from the gut to the brain that says enough, takes approximately 20 minutes to arrive after the stomach is actually full. 20 minutes, which means that anyone eating fast, eating distracted, or eating past the point of comfort without noticing is chronically overeating before the body has had the chance to say stop. Dr. David Kessler, former commissioner of the U.S. Food and Drug Administration and author of The End of Overeating, has described how the modern Western eating environment is designed to override exactly this signal through speed, distraction, and the engineering of food that bypasses satiety entirely. Japan's 8 habits work in the opposite direction. They give the signal the conditions it needs to arrive on time. The first habit is eating without a screen. At the next meal, notice whether a phone, a laptop, or a television is present. In Japan, the meal is the activity, not the background to another activity. Eating while watching something redirects the brain's attention away from the physical experience of eating, the taste, the texture, the pace, the feeling of fullness arriving. The meal is finished before the body has registered that it happened. Research from the University of Birmingham found that distracted eating not only increases the amount consumed in the moment, but also increases snacking in the hours that follow, because the brain did not record the meal as a complete sensory experience. The hunger that arrives 2 hours after lunch eaten at a desk is not real hunger. It is the brain asking for the meal it does not remember receiving. The second habit is eating slowly enough to taste the food. This is not a metaphor. The Japanese meal pace is genuinely slower than its Western equivalent, not because of a rule, but because the meal is the event. Chopsticks, smaller bites, pauses between mouthfuls, conversation that interrupts the eating rather than running alongside it. Each of these slows the pace of consumption and gives the satiety signal 20 minutes to do what it was designed to do. A meal eaten in 12 minutes is a meal eaten in the biological blind spot. A meal eaten in 25 is one where the body gets to participate in the decision about when it ends. The third habit, the one that has nothing to do with food, sleep. A body that is consistently underslept produces elevated levels of ghrelin, the hunger hormone, and suppressed levels of leptin, the satiety hormone. The result is a body that is hungrier than it should be, less satisfied when it eats, and specifically drawn toward high-calorie food as a compensation for the energy deficit the poor sleep has created. This is not a character flaw. It is an endocrine response. Japanese sleep culture, the deliberate evening wind down, the early finish to eating, the separation of the sleeping space from stimulation, produces consistently better sleep quality than the Western default. And consistently better sleep produces a hormonal environment in which the body's appetite regulation simply works. No diet required. The fourth habit is hara hachi bu, eating to 80% fullness. The Okinawan practice that has been studied by longevity researchers for decades and consistently linked to lower rates of obesity, cardiovascular disease, and all-cause mortality. The mechanism is the 20-minute satiety delay. By stopping at 80%, the body arrives at 100% full by the time the signal has had a chance to travel from the gut to the brain. The Western habit of eating to full means arriving at 120% full 20 minutes later and calling it a good meal. The practical application is simpler than it sounds. It is not about measuring or calculating. It is about pausing halfway through the meal and asking honestly whether the body is still hungry or whether it is eating because the plate is not yet empty. The plate being empty is not the body's signal. The body's signal is. Learning to distinguish between the two is the entire practice. The fifth habit is eating at a table and only at a table. The kitchen counter does not count. The sofa does not count. The car definitely does not count. In Japanese eating culture, food belongs at a table, not because of formality, but because the table is the physical signal that a meal is happening. Eating anywhere else is eating in a context the brain does not register as a meal, which means the satiety signal is even less likely to arrive on time, and the food is even less likely to be recorded in the brain's running account of what the body has consumed today. The snack eaten standing at the fridge, the handful consumed while passing through the kitchen, these are invisible meals that the body counts and the brain forgets. The sixth habit is water before hunger. In Japan, green tea or water is consumed consistently throughout the day, not as a hydration strategy, but as a cultural rhythm. The body's thirst signal and hunger signal are generated by the same hypothalamic mechanism and are frequently confused by the brain, particularly in people who do not drink consistently. The mild dehydration that accumulates across a Western afternoon is regularly misread as hunger and answered with food when it should be answered with water. A glass of water before responding to any sensation of hunger is a 30-second intervention that eliminates a meaningful proportion of the eating that was never about food in the first place. The seventh habit, the one in the hour after eating, shokugo no sanpo. A short, gentle walk after the evening meal, not exercise, 10 to 15 minutes of easy movement. The mechanism is specific and well documented. A brief walk after eating activates the muscles, which absorb glucose from the bloodstream directly, reducing the post-meal blood sugar spike that would otherwise trigger an insulin response. It is the insulin response, not the meal itself, that signals the body toward fat storage in the hour after eating. A study published in the journal Sports Medicine found that a 10-minute walk after eating reduced post-meal blood sugar spikes by up to 50% compared to remaining seated. The difference between the body storing and the body using is a 10-minute walk around the block. The eighth habit is knowing the difference between hunger and kuchisabishi. The Japanese have a word for it. Kuchisabishi, literally lonely mouth. The sensation of wanting to eat not because the body needs food, but because the mouth wants something to do. Boredom, habit, comfort. The 9 p.m. reach into the fridge that has nothing to do with the body having run out of fuel and everything to do with the evening feeling slightly empty. Japanese culture names this distinction explicitly, and naming it makes it visible in a way that makes it possible to respond to differently. Not suppress, not white-knuckle resist, just recognize for what it is and choose accordingly. The next time the hand reaches for food outside of a meal, pause for 10 seconds and ask honestly, is this the body asking or is this kuchisabishi? The answer does not always change the outcome, but it changes the relationship with the outcome. And a different relationship, practiced consistently, produces a different pattern. 8 habits. No diet, no tracking, no food group eliminated, no Monday start date required. The woman in Osaka has never thought of any of this as weight management. She has thought of it as dinner, as an evening, as how a day ends. The weight that is not changed in 20 years is not the goal. It is the byproduct of 8 habits that were never about weight at all. Which of these 8 do you recognize most in your own day? Tell me in the comments. And if someone in your life has been on the same diet cycle for years and cannot understand why nothing sticks, send this to them today. The answer was never another diet. It was always something quieter than that. I will see you in the next one.